Back in the noughties, my insomnia became such a problem that I was referred to a psychotherapist. All I had asked for was sleeping pills. At the time I was driving for a living and I had found myself swerving to avoid hallucinations. The therapist asked me what cured looked like and I said it would be finding myself playing my own songs solo in a pub with just an acoustic guitar. I helped to start Wycombe Arts Centre and I went to one of their early events where students from the uni were given space to promote themselves. I was inspired by a young lad who dressed as a cardboard robot and walked around the streets of Wycombe interacting with people in order to assess and document their reactions. On the one hand, this seemed brave, but on the other hand, no one knew who he was. I decided the next best thing was to have an act with a costume and a stage name. I can separate myself, the anxious old age pensioner and part-time delivery driver, from the exhibitionist antics of Twangling Jack. And there I stood amazed for a while, as on a pillory looking through a lute, while she did call me rascal fiddler and Twangling Jack, with 20 other such vile terms as had she studied to misuse me so.
Sweet home I Wycombe, the wanderers are wandering, the M40 passes by. Sweet home I Wycombe, like a stairway from heaven, like an escalator from the sky. Marlow Hill descends to the bridge on the River Wye. Walkers, joggers, bowlers, batters, throws and catchers on the ride. And if to London I should roam, it's just a train from Marylebone. Within an hour I'll be home.
On those glass half full days I pat myself on the back and congratulate myself just on having a solo act, regardless of merit. On other days I see myself in relation to all the other local acts and I realise how far down the list I am. I recently had one of those only me experiences when a schoolgirl contacted me on behalf of her class who were leaving school at the end of term. Apparently her geography teacher uses my song Sweet Home I Wycombe as a teaching aid. And apparently that teacher is a bit of a fan of mine. I was asked to record a message as a thank you to the teacher and I filmed myself at the Arts Centre open mic and dedicated the song to the teacher. I performed it unusually well and I got a very nice thank you for doing it. I filmed the first YouTube video of Sweet Home I Wycombe long before I found the nerve to attempt open mic nights. When I did start doing open mic nights I found myself hampered not just by my usual anxiety but also by the feeling that time had slowed down, so I played everything ridiculously fast. I know this because I always filmed myself, presuming to see an improvement after a while. I was given the excellent advice of just keep doing it until you become desensitised. I have always known that I'm not much of a singer and I always used to imagine I could never get away with it. But having tried all kinds of things, I settled on a mixture of protest and comedy songs, all performed with an almost manic punk-like energy. Many of the things I tried failed, but some of my most ridiculous song choices have become crowd pleasers. Things such as Je ne regrette rien in the style of Status Quo, On the Street Where You Live in the style of The Clash, and my loop pedal version of Doe a Deer from The Sound of Music. The cover song I have performed the most, and the trick that I pull out of the hat every time I feel I am losing an audience, is Let's Do the Time Warp Again. These cover songs are basically just an elaborate frame to draw people's attention to my original songs. In 2023 I found myself alone on a stage playing a benefit for abandoned horses. I was looking out over a seated area of people watching me, surrounded by a field of people wandering around stalls, all of whom could hear me. And beyond that I could see a fairground and a dog show. I was totally in the moment, taking it all in and feeling no anxiety. Yet I had been worried about driving there, and I had been fretting over the parking instructions. And I was avoiding having to go to any of the food stalls and maybe having to interact with a vendor. I now find performing is like my safe space. The kind of space the therapist told me to envision whenever I got stressed. I have recently started busking. Also in 2023, some friends were busking for charity, and they asked if I would cover for half an hour while they took a break. I absolutely loved it. I think busking is the only genuine performance I ever get to give, as I am totally dependent on the kindness of strangers. The lack of applause is a bit odd, but the approval implied by people putting money in the hat more than compensates.